Okay, let's dive into this. Today, we're demystifying a process that literally affects every single one of us, yet it usually feels completely wrapped up in this impenetrable jargon. I'm talking about how the government manages our tax money. We're going to unpack the entire journey of India's public finances, moving from the initial blueprint of proposed spending all the way down to the final receipt check of where that money actually went.
So here's a massive question for you. Who really controls the billions of dollars your government is spending every single year? In theory, it's supposed to be the people, represented by the parliament, right? But as you'll see in the source material today, there's this really fascinating and frankly sometimes stark tension between theoretical parliamentary control and the actual everyday political reality on the ground.
Here is our quick roadmap for this explainer. We'll hit the power of the purse, passing the union budget, the vote on account, the estimates committee, the CAG as the supreme auditor, and we'll wrap up with the illusion of control.
Part 1. The power of the purse.
Let's bust some jargon right out of the gate. If you actually search the Indian Constitution for the word budget, you won't find it. No way. The true constitutional starting point is Article 112, which mandates what's called the annual financial statement. And this statement is absolutely crucial because it strictly separates charged expenditures, those are the non-votable things like the president's salary or interest on the national debt, from proposed expenditures that actually require Parliament's approval through a vote.
And this brilliantly illustrates the foundational principle here. The directly elected House has to control the purse strings. Notice how power heavily tilts toward the Lok Sabha. They are the only ones who vote on demands for grants. When it comes to money bills, the Rajya Sabha is basically restricted to a mere 14-day advisory role. Sure, they can suggest changes, but the Lok Sabha holds all the real cards.
Part 2. Passing the union budget.
So, how does this constitutional theory actually translate into practice? Transforming a proposed financial statement into legally binding government action takes 5 crucial steps. It kicks off with the finance minister's presentation, which is followed by a broad general discussion. Then Parliament goes into recess for some detailed committee scrutiny. After that, the Lok Sabha votes on specific demands for grants. Finally, passing the appropriation and finance bills gives the government the legal authority to actually spend money and collect taxes.
Now, time is incredibly tight during this whole process. 75 days. That is the strict, totally non-negotiable deadline for Parliament to pass the finance bill after it's introduced. If they fail to meet this 75-day window, the taxation proposals completely lapse.
Part 3. Vote on account explained.
But you might be wondering, what happens if time runs out? Or what if it's an election year and a full budget can't be passed before the new financial year kicks off on April 1st? Does the government just shut down? Well, no. This is where the vote on account prevents a U.S.-style government shutdown. While a full budget covers the entire year and brings in new policies, a vote on account is strictly a short-term advance grant. It usually covers just 2 months to keep routine, essential services funded. It doesn't introduce new schemes, and legally it cannot alter direct taxes. It's really the ultimate stopgap measure.
Let's move to Part 4 and see how this builds into the Estimates Committee.
As we look at the blueprint phase of the budget, we find a truly critical parliamentary watchdog. The Estimates Committee is made up of exactly 30 members, and crucially, they are elected entirely from the Lok Sabha. They serve a 1-year term, and, to ensure a strict separation from the executive branch, ministers are completely barred from joining.
So, what do they actually do? They scrutinize the intended expenditures before the money is spent. Their whole job is to suggest economies, improve efficiency, and make sure the money is being laid out within the limits of the stated policy. Interestingly, though, their focus completely excludes public undertakings. Those have their own separate committee.
Part 5. CAG, the Supreme Auditor.
Okay, so we've looked at the blueprint phase, but what happens after the money's already out the door? Enter the Comptroller and Auditor General, or CAG. Established under Article 148 of the Constitution, the CAG is the supreme independent audit institution of India. Basically, they are the ultimate constitutional whistleblower. While the Estimates Committee looks at money before it's spent, the CAG holds the executive accountable post-expenditure, auditing the accounts of both the union and state governments.
And let me tell you, their post-facto audits have massive historical significance. Over the years, the CAG's rigorous, totally impartial investigations have brought billions of dollars in irregularities to light. According to the source material, landmark audit reports exposed the 2G spectrum allocation issue, the coal mine allocation irregularities, and the infamous Bihar fodder scam. This institution is absolutely vital for transparency.
Part 6. The Illusion of Control.
This brings us to a really critical theme today, the stark contrast between how this system is supposed to work perfectly in theory versus how it actually functions in reality. Take cut motions, for example. In theory, parliamentarians can challenge government spending through these. A policy cut aims to reduce the demand to just 1 rupee, which is a signal of total disapproval. An economy cut targets specific wasteful amounts, and a token cut reduces a demand by 100 rupees to highlight a specific grievance. Theoretically, these give Parliament the power to bring down a government, but in reality, they almost never succeed.
Now, what's genuinely wild about this is the concept of the guillotine. You see, Parliament almost never has enough time to debate every single grant. So on the final allotted day, all remaining undiscussed demands are lumped together and put to a vote immediately. En bloc. This dramatic loophole means that the vast majority of government spending, literally billions of rupees, bypasses democratic debate entirely and just gets approved, completely unexamined.
Okay, let's do a quick memory check. Based on what we discussed right at the beginning, which article actually mandates the annual financial statement? Is it 110, 112, 114, or 266? If you said B, Article 112, you hit the nail on the head. It's the constitutional bedrock we've been exploring.
So, the crucial point we're getting to is this. When you combine that guillotine procedure with really strict anti-defection laws, laws that literally force members of parliament to vote exactly along party lines or risk losing their seats, the legislature's actual control over the purse strings gets heavily overridden. Executive dominance ensures that, as the analysis points out, parliamentary scrutiny often becomes more of a constitutional ritual than a truly functional reality.
Which leaves us with this final lingering thought. Given the sheer dominance of the executive branch and the incredibly strict limitations of time and procedure, is parliamentary control over public finances just a constitutional formality? The blueprint is beautifully designed, for sure, and the receipt checkers are robust, but that space in between is where the real mechanics of democracy are tested. Thank you so much for diving into this explainer with me.